On this edition of Sightings.
You going? Do you see it?
Dramatic new video of a mysterious high-flying disc in one of America's most active UFO hotspots.
It doesn't look like any conventional aircraft.
Sightings looks at the strange phenomena in the skies above Colorado's San Luis Valley. The ghosts of this small western mining town's past were so real, you could almost feel them. Now, you can hear them.
Listen.
Many people consider Maria Esperanza to be the greatest mystic of this century. Sightings goes to Venezuela to witness a miracle at Betania.
She knows everything about you, the present, the past, and the future.
And Comet Hale-Bopp is headed toward Earth at the rate of 600 miles per minute. Are we prepared for its arrival?
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. After many years of reviewing home video of supposed UFOs, it takes a lot to impress the Sightings investigative team. But what you're about to see is among the most intriguing UFO footage we've ever broadcast. A brilliant disc-shaped craft hovered over Salida, Colorado for more than an hour. Tim Edwards has spent most of his life in Salida, Colorado. He runs the cafe his dad started 20 years ago. Tim's heard his whole life about fireballs, mutilated cattle, and UFO sightings in the valley. He never thought it would happen to him, but then it did. On the morning of August 27th, 1995, Tim recorded this videotape.
See it going? Do you see it?
Approximately 9:30, me and my daughter Brandy came out here, and she has said that she looked up in the sky to see if it was going to rain that day.
If it was going to rain or lightning or something, we couldn't go camping, so I looked up and I saw it.
I looked up again, and I see a very intense, bright, shimmering white light. At times, it appeared to be a boomerang shape, too, or a slight arc.
Tim called his restaurant to see if anyone else had sighted the UFO. Cook Michael Maggio told him he'd take a look.
Come out here, about right here, look beyond the door, and I could see the three flashes come off that looked like boomerangs, and it was bright white.
Then a fourth witness, Tim's 15-year-old daughter, Lorraine, saw the UFO.
At first, I thought those guys were crazy. I was like, that's dumb. And then when it started moving around, I was like, couldn't believe it.
Michael Curta is MUFON's chief investigator in Colorado. He's been researching UFO activity in the San Luis Valley for several years.
Mr. Edwards' video is some of the best footage that I've seen, purely for the fact that, number one, it's a daylight sighting. There are multiple witnesses. It's a very large object, or appears to be a very large object, and we just don't get that many credible, good daylight sightings.
Sightings asked Chip Peterson to study the Edwards videotape. Peterson is an aerospace engineer specializing in computer enhancement and stabilization.
When you look at moving video, what you're actually seeing is 30 frames per second flipping on the screen very quickly, and that's what we've got right here. What you're seeing here is the edge of each frame that I had to stabilize by hand in order to keep this object in the center of the screen. So after you stabilize the image, you can see its motion much more clearly. Based on what I know of atmospheric flight, it doesn't look like any conventional aircraft.
Could it be otherworldly technology? Yes, it could. Could it be military aircraft? Yes, it could. Could it be some unexplained weather phenomena? That's also possible. And there's an awful lot of strange things that occur in the mysterious Valley of Colorado, and this is racking up to be one of them.
The San Luis Valley is 5,000 square miles of fertile Colorado pasture land, the largest, cleanest alpine meadow in the world. It's also a UFO hotspot. Recently, people here sighted huge fireballs streaking across the sky.
Over on this mountain range, we've seen the orange orbs that come down and sit or just race right across the mountain range.
This bright blue oval was traveling at the speed one would expect a meteor, and it stopped instantly and started straight down.
We've saw lights come off of this side of the mountain over here, come clear across and go over the top of these mountains on this side. This light came across all the way across and no sound whatsoever.
For 10 years, researcher Chris O'Brien has studied more than 100 bizarre animal mutilations in the valley and their potential link to UFO activity.
The activity that we experienced in November through January was quite incredible. We saw so much activity here. We had green fireballs, blue fireballs, squadrons of blinking lights traveling too fast to be conventional aircraft, and then soon on the heels of many of these sightings, we had incredible military activity.
On January 12, 1994, the most spectacular UFO sighting to date occurred when an enormous arc of fiery orbs raced across the afternoon sky. Among the eyewitnesses was a retired 30-year Air Force veteran, pilot Jimmy Lloyd.
They were extremely bright, like strobes, a green color. There were 7 of them in a semicircular formation. They looked as big as a battleship and very fast. They were going at hypersonic speed, yet there was no sound wave.
Within hours of the sighting, it became clear that Colonel Lloyd was not the only one interested in the sighting. In nearby Monte Vista, Colorado, the local sheriff received a phone call from the North American Air Defense Command.
The Rio Grande County Sheriff's Office got a call from NORAD saying that one of their satellites had picked up a significant burst of heat up on Greeny Mountain.
The information to us from NORAD that night that we needed to exhaust all efforts to determine what this explosion was.
At NORAD's urgent request, the sheriff dispatched planes and a ground crew to search for the source of the explosion. But as the team neared Greeny Mountain, they were waved off.
When they called us in originally, they gave us coordinates. Explosion took place here. So many degrees latitude, so many degrees longitude. Then we called them back and they said, well, it happened on these coordinates, which are completely different, probably 20 miles away, 15 miles away out of all time.
Had NORAD really been off by more than 20 miles? Or did they want the search team out of the area?
We did our extensive search and couldn't come up with anything. I called NORAD directly and was in contact with Major McCouch. He kind of blew it off. He said, if we can't find it, don't worry about it. If we can't find it, it never happened, and that it was no more of our concern.
In an effort to determine what really happened, Sightings asked aerospace analyst Ron Rieger to access satellite data collected in the area on the day in question. Rieger has concluded that there was a significant heat flash on January 12, 1994.
I did talk with one of the analysts at work, and they confirmed both the event, the time, and the location, and added the comment that this did not appear to be a forest fire.
The cause of the explosion, recorded by NORAD and confirmed through satellite data, remains a mystery, as do the many UFO sightings that continue to be recorded in the San Luis Valley. If the military has any answers, they're not telling. The lack of information is particularly disturbing to Tim Edwards, who has the dubious distinction of owning the best footage of one of the area's many UFOs.
I've been obsessed, almost, my family thinks, with trying to get the information, the facts out of this case and the truth, and getting this out to the public and bringing witnesses forward.
One thing that sustains Tim Edwards and UFO researchers in the valley is the knowledge that UFO activity here is not just a cosmic flash in the pan. The local paper records sightings today just as it did more than 80 years ago. Back then, eyewitnesses asked one simple question, and it's the same question people are still asking. The selected tape is consistent with a number of reports Sightings has received about UFOs in the four-state area of Colorado, Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. We're continuing to pursue these reports and will bring you extended coverage on an upcoming edition of Sightings.
Next, in this tiny mining town, the past and present coexist, and it's not easy.
Georgetown is a very haunted community, but this is just going beyond that.
Driving out of Denver and into the Front Range of the Rocky Mountains, the road is dotted with small towns that seem frozen in time. They survive today much as they have for the past 100 years, perfectly preserved reminders of a simpler, kinder way of life. Perhaps that's why so many people who move here never want to leave, even after they're dead. This was Georgetown, Colorado in 1895. This is Georgetown, Colorado in 1995. 100 years has done little to change the silver mining boomtown. Most of the buildings from the previous century are still around. And to hear locals talk, so are the people who lived here back then.
Georgetown is a very haunted community, so I just thought we have to coexist. These are like parallel universes or something like that. So I just thought, let's, live together. That's what people do up here with their houses, their homes, and everything. But this is just going beyond that.
In 1994, Bill Pentland and Becky Richardson traded their fast-track life in Hollywood's entertainment industry for the peace and quiet of Georgetown. They bought an old restaurant, named it the Full Circle Cafe, and began to restore it, stirring up the past in surprising ways.
When we first bought the cafe, what we did, we had to do a lot of remodeling and a lot of renovation. We had to go down into the basement, and it has a lot of really neat types of things down there. And we found all these receipts, newspapers, and obviously at that point we had realized too that this box had really not been touched for almost about 100 years.
Opening that box and using its contents to decorate the cafe seemed to be a paranormal trigger.
We found a lot of papers in the basement that had the writings of the people, their receipts. It sat here for about 100 years with nothing happening, and once we brought up the vibrations or the essence or the actual touch of these people, these things just very quickly began to happen.
But it took a while for Bill and Becky to realize that their rummagings might be linked to strange happenings in the cafe.
Little subtle things started happening, just noises and just some things rattling and things like that.
We turn the TV off, it's on. We'll turn the lights off, they're on.
I would be totaling out the calculator, trying to add up the daily registers and stuff, and right when I get to the end of the total, the whole thing would just clear out.
Anything that had to do with water was breaking down. Ice machines, sinks, toilets, pipes under the ground.
I mean, it happened night after night after night after night.
At first, everyone involved in the Full Circle Cafe put up with the seemingly playful haunting activity. But then the incidents took on a more frightening, even menacing tone.
I was by myself, and something came up from behind me and grabbed the bar stool and turned me around just like you would just turn around real fast, or something in your chair.
One night, Caleb Lopez was remarking on the striking resemblance between Becky and a woman in this photograph.
And the picture flew off the wall and hit the end of the table. And that kind of spooked all of us.
It also prompted Becky to wonder if her uncanny resemblance to the woman in the photo might explain the haunting in the cafe. She and Bill started researching their cafe's historic past.
In the 1890s, this particular establishment was a general store. And there were two brothers, a William and an Albert Shower, but there's also a third brother, Edward. But their energy is still here. And God, I hope I haven't opened up a big can of worms with these guys.
No sooner had Bill and Becky learned about the Shower brothers than an apparition of Edward Shower appeared to Becky in the cafe.
And I look in the kitchen, and there is one of the Shower brothers standing at the sink, and because it's the guy in the picture, it's the guy with the mustache. And all I could do was think of, I gotta get out, I've gotta get out. And I was so freaked out of seeing something that I know was from 1895, and is in my cafe.
Soon after Becky's encounter, waitress Erin Sharecki saw the ghostly image of another brother.
What I had seen was the image of a man, and it was a perfect image. He had on a long-sleeved dark shirt, and his apron was dark, so to speak.
The ghost that Erin described was a perfect match for John Shower, even though Erin had not seen this photograph. Sightings asked renowned psychic investigator Peter James to come to the Full Circle Cafe to uncover the reason behind the escalating haunting activity. He was told nothing about the history of the cafe or the Shower brothers. In fact, Peter was not even told that his destination was Georgetown until the day he left. Yet his first psychic impressions were on target.
My preliminary sense of what
is within the structure, not necessarily here as we speak, is a male entity. And I pick up the name of Edward.
When Peter was in here last night, that was the first thing he walked in and said, "Who is Edward?" And it just kind of gave us big-time chills.
I get a sense that there's an energy about someone named John as well.
The oldest brother was John. John was a baker.
Vibrationally, he's talking about some kind of a fish. And I don't know what that means, but there's a fish, of all things, involved here.
The Fish block, Charles Fish, the builder, was a banker here in Georgetown, amongst other things. He built the building that we see there now, around 1890 or 1891.
I will say that Edward does come down here. These vibrations, like the walls, the beams reek of his energy because he's also angry.
It was in the attic that Peter felt Edward's angry presence most strongly.
Hello? Communicate with me. Look. Hello? See? Oh, he's angry. Don't be angry with me. This is a volatile entity, by the way. Don't play games with me. I'm not afraid of you. He said, I didn't kill him. I didn't kill him, and he's angry. Don't be angry at me. This entity is capable of making sound, of talking.
Moments later, Peter's contention that the spirit could speak seemed to be proven correct.
Edward! Speak to me now!
Listen.
It is important to note that 12 people witnessed these events. There are no windows in the attic. It was well past midnight. The Full Circle Cafe was closed, and Peter had never seen the picture that Becky was about to show him.
This one.
Oh.
This is the one I saw. This is the one that I saw upstairs. I got goosebumps myself.
That's what I saw in the kitchen.
This is Edward.
We've been gone to great pains to keep him in the dark. It's like I have to bite my tongue. He knew nothing.
Peter believes that by confronting the spirit of Edward Shower, he has released his haunting energy.
If they want Edward to move on, I think this will happen simply by the fact that the history is now being brought to light. And I feel that Edward is now aware of the fact that we know that he was falsely accused of this murder. And I think that will help him move on.
While the Sightings team was in Georgetown, we heard from many other residents who had also experienced haunting reminders of the town's past. We'll introduce you to more of the ghosts of Georgetown on an upcoming program.
Next, a breakthrough in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
We are going to discover something.
And buyer beware when it comes to haunted houses.
Here are some of the stories Sightings is following in the news. Recently, Sightings brought you the story of an Ohio University project called the Big Ear. A giant radio telescope there is searching for sounds of intelligent life in the cosmos. Well, now in Columbus, Ohio, a second independent search project is underway. We've dubbed it the Big Eye. In Ohio's capital, astronomer Stuart Kingsley is conducting an independent search for visual signs of extraterrestrial intelligence by updating an idea discarded in the 1960s, laser communication.
I'm looking for a regular pulsation in the optical spectrum, basically a bleep, 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 rather like an interstellar heartbeat.
Traditionally, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or ETI, uses radio telescopes programmed to pick up anomalous sounds. But Kingsley believes that our first two-way communication with outer space will be visual.
Lasers are more for point-to-point targeting, and It gives you a very narrow beam, even over interstellar distances. So that's actually why I think the preferred technology for ETIs to communicate with other stars is lasers.
And Kingsley is confident his search will not be in vain.
We are going to discover something, but that, you know, that's going to be a major news story because that means we are not alone.
In New York, it's buyer beware. Home sellers here no longer have to disclose to potential buyers that the house they're trying to unload is haunted. 26 states do require disclosure if a home has a past history of unsettling activity. But New York Governor George Pataki has signed a law exempting home sellers from upfront disclosure of a home's, quote, psychological impact.
A psychological impact can be anything from a haunting to a murder to a suicide to pool leaking.
Realtor Kathy Edwards believes that full disclosure of a property's haunted reputation is important, whether or not it's mandated by law.
If we were listing a property that was known to be or thought to be haunted either by a seller or by the community in general, I would recommend to the seller that they notify any serious buyers of the fact that it was known to be haunted.
Even if the seller does not believe in ghosts, if a home is believed by others in the community to be a haunted house, that fact should also be disclosed.
My partner and I listed a property in this community that we thought was haunted because every time you walked in, it was extremely cold. I mean, colder than you would normally think a closed-up empty house would be. And yes, we did disclose. The buyer moved in. They've never had anything happen. So, you know, it may have just been a cold draft. You don't know. But anything that could potentially affect a buyer's decision to purchase a property, they absolutely should disclose it.
In New Delhi, India, thousands of Hindus are standing in long lines to see what they believe to be a series of religious miracles. In fact, Hindus throughout the world are experiencing the miracle in their own temples. Stone carvings of the elephant god known as Ganesha have suddenly and inexplicably begun to drink milk.
And since it happened, I believed it with my own eyes. Otherwise, I would not have.
From New Delhi, the milk-drinking phenomenon has spread quickly to temples throughout Asia, Great Britain, and the United States.
It's amazing, you know, it just sucked it up. It's just a stream just going straight up. And I said, how could this not, not be a miracle? This has to be something, something supernatural.
I've never seen this before, so it's the first time, you know, you're witnessing something, a miracle. That's what you can say, it's a miracle.
While the Hindu milk miracle spreads around the globe, religious leaders are being cautious about the significance of the phenomenon. But the faithful are embracing it as a positive sign from one of their gods.
Well, it's a good sign. It's really good for the nation. You know, they are telling us that I'm here to take care of you, don't you worry.
So this is a sign, very good sign, that God is blessing everybody, all the devotees, and trying to recreate faith in their minds.
We'll have more stories from the news next time. Now, here's what's coming up on Sightings.
Healing miracles really do happen at a place called Betania.
You believe miracles can happen here?
Oh, yes, indeed. I've seen them both trips I've been down here.
Later, it's speeding toward Earth at over 36,000 miles an hour. Are you ready for Comet Hale-Bopp?
What causes a miracle to happen? Why are some blessed while others, just as deserving, are passed over? These are questions that have gone unanswered for thousands of years, but still, millions of people put their faith in the possibility of miracles. And as Carla Wohl reports, many of the faithful flock to a Catholic shrine called Betania, hoping that they will be chosen.
Drive from Caracas, the city beat gives way to the tranquility of the Venezuelan countryside, and a place where many believe miracles can happen. The waters here are said to have healing powers, and there's a shrine where many prayers are answered.
Many people come here and they see nothing, but you feel it.
For most, it's a feeling beyond description.
It's a mystery, and in the mystery is the wisdom.
It's called Betania, and people come here from around the world to pray, gain wisdom, and be healed. They drink the water. Many even claim they've had supernatural visions at Betania.
Sometimes you will see balls form, colored balls, and they might be blue ones, they might be rose-colored.
This blue butterfly.
We felt this big whoosh between our heads.
Came right between
both
our
of our
heads
cheeks.
And brushed our cheeks.
Right
and
up
went
to the
in
ceiling of the chapel.
And the people went nuts.
And as I watched them, like a vapor appeared over the top of it. And when it did, it went into the shape of a lady.
People come to be healed. Miraculously, many are.
You believe miracles can happen here?
Oh, yes, indeed. I've seen them both trips I've been down here. I've seen a woman was on the same pilgrimage as me for 45 years. She was bent over with scoliosis. When she left here, she stood straight up.
These inscriptions in stone have been left by those who've been healed. The miracles have been investigated by the Catholic Church. And after more than 500 interviews, Bishop Pio Bello has concluded that miracles do occur here. So, like Lourdes in southern France, Betania has been sanctioned as an official apparition site.
My judgment is that those apparitions are authentic and supernatural.
But it is this woman who people most want to see when they travel to Betania.
Good morning, good morning.
Maria Esperanza is known as the visionary of Betania. She discovered this shrine and believes that in this place, Jesus and the Virgin Mary can speak through her. Believers say she has an extraordinary spiritual power.
You're standing and walking with no wheelchair and your crutches today. How did that happen? What happened?
I was blessed to get in front of her, and when we locked eyes, I went down on the ground. I got up, I took my cane at the tour guide, jumped off a porch, ran up this hill to the chapel, grabbed my luggage, ran up another hill to the bus.
Maria Esperanza makes no claims herself, but others believe she's been given the power to see the future.
When you meet her, she knows everything about you, the present, the past, and the future. She is able to see things and know things before they ever occur.
It's the power of this tiny woman and this tiny waterfall that makes Betania the place of last resort for so many desperate people.
Well, the only thing I knew about spina bifida was that it was devastating.
Little Ryan Hulick was born with a gaping hole at the base of his spine.
I'd never seen anything like it before, and I really didn't understand what I was looking at.
This diagnosis of spina bifida is something that involves the brain, it involves the spinal cord, and because it involves your nervous system, it involves anything from the head down.
The prognosis for Ryan was not good. He might be walking by age 5, but there was no guarantee that he would ever survive into adulthood.
I sort of felt like I had a baby with a time bomb, so I didn't sleep well. I was always listening for him to see is this going to be the night?
It was after one particularly bad episode that Pat Hulick decided to seek the help of Maria Esperanza. Pat and her husband Casey met Maria in Lowell, Massachusetts during a tour of the United States.
She finished speaking with the family and she just turned around and walked right up to us. And she says through the interpreter, "Here, this is the place." And she's touching her lower spine. And we said yes. We had never given her any details about this child or the condition.
She looked at us and she said he's being healed in 3 parts, and the first part is happening right now.
The Hulicks didn't immediately notice a change in Ryan's condition. But then, when Maria returned for another visit to the United States, this time to Valley Forge, Maria met Ryan in person.
She turned right around and she took Ryan out of my arms and sat right down. And on the video you can see her hand going right down over where the shunt and down along the shunt line of his little chest, and then on the spine and the back and the whole thing.
Almost instantly, the Hulicks say, Ryan was stronger. They took him to the Westchester Spina Bifida Clinic, where Ryan's doctors were baffled by his sudden improvement.
The neurologist came in, and he was doing his exam and writing down his comments and so forth, and he he got up and got his colleague because he wanted to check and make sure it was the right kid and the right records and the right everything because it was so dramatic.
A few months later, the Hulicks took Ryan to Betania, to Maria's house, for the third and final part of his healing.
Suddenly, Ryan woke up and he was screaming like a very, very strong cry, as if he were in pain. And she said, he's crying because that which was apart has just come together. She said, this is the third part. He's going to begin to become completely healed.
On that bus ride back from Caracas, after he received the third part, we noticed an immediate dramatic change in Ryan. He was so strong and just trying to get up and to move and just so bouncy.
The Hulicks returned to their home in New York, and Ryan began making dramatic improvements, much to the surprise of the neurosurgeon who had made the original diagnosis.
I think he's excelled in some ways beyond what his objective analyses, such as pictures, x-rays, CAT scans, MRIs, might have led us to think he could do. The art of medicine 100 years ago was holistic, and that was we didn't have the technology and the capability to correct anatomical abnormalities that we do now. We forgot about faith, and we forgot about hope and positive thinking.
Faith and positive thinking are all that Ann Jones believes she has left. Ann's daughter Amanda has epilepsy. She has a seizure nearly every day. Doctors said she would improve with age, but her progress has been unexpectedly slow. At age 5, Amanda is still a toddler in many ways.
Language-wise, I thought she'd be talking more. They have expected her to. They really can't explain why the language isn't coming in.
Ann heard about Ryan Hulick's miraculous recovery, so now she too is making the pilgrimage to Betania.
I'm going to pray for a miracle for her health, to get over her epilepsy, to talk. Even if she could just talk, I'd be happy.
Ann Jones invited Carla Wall and her Sightings team to travel with her on her pilgrimage to Betania. It was to be a journey of faith she hoped would have a miraculous ending.
When Sightings returns, Carla Wall meets Maria Esperanza, and Ann Jones hopes for answered prayers.
This is my daughter, Amanda.
There have been claims of miraculous healing and apparitions of the Virgin Mary from every corner of the globe. But currently, the Catholic Church recognizes only 4 locations as sites where miracles do happen. They are Lourdes, Fatima, Garbandal, and Betania.
First. Come on.
Up you go.
The Hulicks are traveling from New York. Ann Jones from Michigan. Wendy Benedict from Missouri. It's a poignant mix of faith and desperation that's brought them thousands of miles from home to Venezuela. From Caracas, we board a bus and drive out into the country to Betania and its resident visionary, Maria Esperanza. Pat and Casey Hulick are convinced that their son Ryan was able to overcome the crippling disease spina bifida because of the healing gift of Maria Esperanza.
So is it a trip to say thank you for you? Is it a...
It sure is. It's a trip to say thank you, and it's a trip, for me, is a total trip of joy.
But for every miraculous recovery, there are thousands still waiting to be healed. Ann Jones has come in search of a miracle for her daughter.
What kind of healing are you hoping for your daughter? Did he really? I'd like to see her. I have no more seizures.
Do you think that can happen? Do you think that this is a possibility here?
I really do. Okay, this is Finca Betania. This is the entrance to Betania.
Wendy Benedict is the leader of the group. She brings pilgrims to Betania every other month. People from many different faiths come to bathe in the healing waters and to pray. And sometimes, Benedict says, the faithful are rewarded with amazing supernatural sights at the shrine.
Sometimes the sun will spin, sometimes it'll turn colors. Many times when you're in the grotto, you will see people looking at the palms of their hands. And what's happened, there's a very fine gold dust that falls all over them.
There are no glowing apparitions on this day, but a vision in white does appear.
Viva Maria!
Maria always says, I am a simple person, but she's far from being simple. I don't know why she was chosen, but I don't know that anyone knows why they receive special graces or special gifts. Maria says that everyone who comes to Betania receives graces.
And those graces are believed to be strongest when given personally by Maria Esperanza. So the crowd pushes in, reaching, pleading, hoping she'll share with them her vision of their future.
¿Entendiste? Do you understand me? Sí, está contenta y feliz. Está contenta y feliz. Que ya me joyful because from today. Aleluya, aleluya. Gloria a Dios.
As she works her way through the crowd, she is continually asked to do the seemingly impossible, to make the crippled stand up and walk, to heal the terminally ill.
Ayúdame, Señor. Yo quiero vivir. Yo quiero vivir.
Many times when I have seen her do healings, for instance, she assumes the illness on herself, and until she's able to expel it from her body, she's physically ill.
Today my heart has been hurting. A veces como que me sale por aquí. I feel it here.
Maria Esperanza rarely grants interviews to the media, but she agreed to sit down with me after one of her healing sessions. What do you see and what do you feel when you look at these people, when you look at me, when you look at anyone?
Es algo tan natural.
It is something so natural.
Hacerme sentir.
It's like if it was my task to make them feel
de que yo los conozco.
That I already know them.
Why, Maria, are you able to help and heal some people, like little Ryan Hulick, and others you can't help?
Personas como el pequeño Brian y otros no están en capacidad para ayudar.
No sé,
I don't know. Only the Lord knows why.
For Ann Jones, the wait to see Maria Esperanza has been agonizing. She douses herself and Amanda's picture with water from the spring. Then finally, she meets Maria.
This is my daughter,
Señora
Amanda.
María, mi hija Amanda.
She has seizures every day.
A los 4 meses de nacida ella,
When she was 4
¿qué
months
pasó?
old,
Eso es importantísimo.
something happened. This is very important.
4 months?
No, 4 months.
Well, she had her DPT shot. Was it the DPT shot? No.
Tuvo una vacuna.
Ahí está.
La triple.
Exacto. Confirmo.
Maria told Ann that she sees Amanda improving, but progress will be slow.
Thank you.
Vete feliz.
Live happy.
Vete alegre.
Live joyful.
Y confórmate a la
It's not the promise of a complete cure that Ann had wished for, but she is at peace because Maria has injected her with hope that Amanda will improve in her own time, just as Ryan Hulick did. Is Ryan a miracle child? Is Betania a place where miracles happen? Or is he simply proof that when medicine falls short, faith can make up the difference?
In Spanish, Esperanza means hope, and that is what Ann Jones has received from the prophet of Betania. Since her return from Venezuela, Ann feels that her daughter Amanda is making small steps forward, and she hopes these signs of improvement will one day add up to a miracle.
Next, are comets bad omens of things to come? What will happen when Hale-Bopp arrives?
Comets are enormous balls of ice hurtling through space, destroying everything in their path. And for centuries, comets have been seen as harbingers of doom. The mother of all comets is thought to be Halley's Comet, not due back over Earth until the year 2060. But in the spring of 1997, we will be visited by the less famous comet Hale-Bopp. And in cosmic terms, this one will miss us only by a whisker. From Earth, we can see only a tiny fraction of the vast, uncharted expanse of outer space. Its vastness has inspired wonder and fear. Now, that fear of the unknown is being challenged by frightening new discoveries in outer space.
We think the solar system is surrounded by something like 10 trillion comets.
With numbers like these, it's not surprising that scientists like NASA astronomer Paul Weissman are keeping tabs on the paths of these supersonic celestial bodies, especially those that will come perilously close to our planet, among them the recently discovered comet Hale-Bopp.
It's in our planetary system already. It's out a little bit beyond the orbit of Jupiter at this point, and will pass just inside the Earth's orbit in March of 1997.
While astronomers reassure us that Comet Hale-Bopp will not impact on Earth, there are many people who believe that even a visit from a comet is a bad omen.
People have many beliefs about comets. For example, if you see a comet, you'll die soon after, or if you see a comet and you don't cross yourself and tell someone, then you'll lose a finger, all sorts of peculiar things like that.
UCLA folklorist Heather Joseph Witham notes that historical events are often tied to a passing comet.
For example, in 1066, there was a comet, and just afterwards, the Normans invaded England and the Battle of Hastings took place, and England became a Norman country. People who see this, the belief is reinforced. Something happened. But it's not for you or I necessarily to say that the comet didn't predict the event, because we don't really know.
What we do know is that the comet discovered in July 1995 by amateur astronomers Alan Hale and Thomas Bopp is huge, and it's rapidly heading this way.
We're thinking the nucleus of the comet may be something between 20 and 50 kilometers in diameter, so it's something like the size of a city. It's falling towards the sun at about 15 kilometers a second, about 10 miles per second, but it's still about 600 million miles from the sun, so it has a long way to go. It will actually pick up speed as it comes in.
And according to the mythology of many cultures, comets like the one expected here in 1997 are the most likely to cause troubling events as they pass over Earth.
There are some connections between comets and catastrophic Earth events. There was a really long, hot summer and drought in the eastern United States in 1762. It was thought a comet predicted this. And once again, there was a comet just before an incredible earthquake in 1811 that actually sank New Madrid, Mississippi.
In fact, that same 1811 comet coincided with Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo. Civilizations have looked to the sky for centuries, and the ancient Greeks even established guidelines for how comets would affect our planet.
Ptolemy in the 2nd century wrote that the size of the comet will tell the comet's meaning. The color of the comet will tell what kind of problem it will bring, wind, rain, drought, whatever. And where in the zodiac the comet was tells which country is going to be affected.
Although scientists have yet to determine the color of Hale-Bopp or its place in the zodiac, there is no question that its size is colossal. A fact that Ptolemy would say spells disaster for those who will cross the comet's path. Once Comet Hale-Bopp passes over the Earth, those with cometophobia, that's the clinical term for the fear of comets, can breathe a long sigh of relief. The comet is not expected back for another 3,000 years.
If you've had a paranormal experience, please write to us at Sightings. Sightings can also be contacted at America Online at keyword Sightings. At the Sightings Forum, download images, sounds, and QuickTime clips. Also, join us daily in our chat room, live on AOL.
Until next time, remember, no mystery is closed to an open mind. For Sightings, I'm Tim White.
Next on Sci-Fi, Dark Shadows.
A good reporter distills information into news.
Journalists bring about change.
A great interviewer always looks his subject in the eye, even if it's in the middle of his forehead.
Oh, yes, supermodel!
For the reporters at the Chronicle, the unbelievable isn't fiction.
Wow. All this is real.
If you're not ready for the truth, don't ask for it.
The Chronicle, a sci-fi original series. Fridays at 7. On Sci-Fi.
Believe everything.
Are we prepared for its arrival?
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. After many years of reviewing home video of supposed UFOs, it takes a lot to impress the Sightings investigative team. But what you're about to see is among the most intriguing UFO footage we've ever broadcast. A brilliant disc-shaped craft hovered over Salida, Colorado for more than an hour.
Multiple witnesses. It's a very large object, or appears to be a very large object, and we just don't get that many credible, good daylight sightings.
Sightings asked Chip Peterson to study the Edwards videotape. Peterson is an aerospace engineer specializing in computer enhancement and stabilization.
When you look at moving video, what you're actually seeing is 30 frames per second flipping on the screen very quickly, and that's what we've got right here. What you're seeing here is the edge of each frame that I had to stabilize by hand in order to keep this object in the center of the screen. So after you stabilize the image, you can see its motion much more clearly. Based on what I know of atmospheric flight, it doesn't look like any conventional aircraft.
Could it be otherworldly technology? Yes, it could. Could it be military aircraft? Yes, it could. Could it be some unexplained weather phenomena? That's also possible. And there's an awful lot.
White light. At times it appeared to be a boomerang shape too, or a slight arc.
Tim called his restaurant to see if anyone else had sighted the UFO. Cook Michael Maggio told him he'd take a look.
Come out here, about right here, look beyond the door, and I could see the 3 flashes come off that looked like boomerangs, and it was bright white.
Then a fourth witness, Tim's 15-year-old daughter, Lorraine, saw the UFO.
At first, I thought those guys were crazy. I was like, that's dumb. And then when it started moving around, I was like, I couldn't believe it.
Michael Curta is MUFON's chief investigator in Colorado. He's been researching UFO activity in the San Luis Valley for several years.
Mr. Edwards' video is some of the best footage that I've seen, purely for the fact that, number one, it's a daylight sighting. There are multiple.
Tim Edwards has spent most of his life in Salida, Colorado. He runs the cafe his dad started 20 years ago. Tim's heard his whole life about fireballs, mutilated cattle, and UFO sightings in the valley. He never thought it would happen to him, but then it did. On the morning of August 27th, 1995, Tim recorded this videotape.
See it going? Do you see it?
Approximately 9:30, me and my daughter Brandy came out here, and she has said that she looked up in the sky to see if it was going to rain that day.
If it was going to rain or lightning or something, we couldn't go camping, so I looked up and I saw it.
I looked up again, and I see a very intense, bright, shimmering.
On this edition of Sightings.
Keep going. Do you see it?
Dramatic new video of a mysterious high-flying disc in one of America's most active UFO hotspots.
It doesn't look like any conventional aircraft.
Sightings looks at the strange phenomena in the skies above Colorado's San Luis Valley. The ghosts of this small western mining town's past were so real, you could almost feel them. Now, you can hear them.
Listen.
Many people consider Maria Esperanza to be the greatest mystic of this century. Sightings goes to Venezuela to witness a miracle at Betania.
She knows everything about you, the present, the past, and the future.
And Comet Hale-Bopp is headed toward Earth at the rate of 600 miles per minute.